A Republican congressman accused his colleagues of doing cocaine and holding orgies. While Donald Trump decided that in the middle of Russia's brutal invasion of Ukraine, he would ask Vladimir Putin to dig up dirt on the Bidens. For more on this, it's time for a closer look. There's a lot you can say about the modern Republican Party. It's paranoid, authoritarian, obsessed with conspiracy theories and culture wars. But in addition to that, it's full of weird people constantly saying weird like when Georgia Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene called the president the commander-and-chief rather than commander-in-chief, which is the actual title. Does she think the two jobs are separate? Being president is super hard because you're the commander and you're the chief. When the Constitution was written in 1492 by Christopher Colombo, they were originally two separate jobs. The commander was George Washington, and the chief was Clancy Whigham. And then there's North Carolina Congressman Madison Cawthorn, who said something so bizarre the other day that even a Republican senator from his home state said Cawthorn clearly has been an embarrassment at times. Cawthorn compared the real-life Washington to the Netflix show House of Cards, and in the process made some pretty crazy allegations about what goes on in D.C.
The sexual perversion that goes on in Washington, I mean, being kind of a young guy in Washington, where the average age is probably 60 or 70, and I look at all these people, a lot of them that I've looked up to through my life. I've always paid attention to politics, guys that, then all of a sudden you get invited to, like, well, hey, we're going to have kind of a sexual get-together at one of our homes. You should come. And I'm like, what did you just ask me to come to? Yeah. And then you realize they're asking you to come to an orgy. Yeah. Or the fact that, there's some of the people that are leading on the movement to try and remove, addiction in our country. And then you watch them do, a key bump of cocaine right in front of you. And it's like, wow, this is wild.
Come on, man, you really expect us to believe that Congress could plan and execute an orgy? At best, I could see them announcing an exploratory committee that would begin to investigate the feasibility of an orgy at a later date. And then it would grind to a halt because one faction would say they wouldn't go unless the orgy was carbon neutral. And then Joe Manchin would say he's only going to vote for the orgy if there was money for coal in it. And then someone would say, why do you need coal at an orgy? And Joe Manchin would say, I guess you've never been to a West Virginia sex party. It just wouldn't happen. Although, in Cawthorn's defense, I will say Chuck Schumer positions his glasses like a man watching an orgy. Well, what do we have here? Also, I gotta say, if they were having orgies and doing cocaine, I would actually find that impressive. I mean, they're all 70 and 80 years old. If you told me Chuck Grassley was snorting blow and boning nonstop, I'd be like, damn, maybe he's more with it than I thought. Also, Chuck Grassley, just gonna say it, pretty good name for an adult film star. Somebody order a pizza? Now, Cawthorn is presumably referring to his fellow Republicans here, since those are the people he caucuses and spends time with. So he seems to be accusing his own GOP colleagues of being sex-crazed drug addicts, which is why, understandably, those same colleagues are pissed at him now. House GOP leader Kevin McCarthy called Cawthorn into his office today, maybe hoping to score an invite or to tell him to stop narking. And Pennsylvania Republican Scott Perry, the chairman of the ultra-conservative House Freedom Caucus, said he plans to speak to the North Carolina Republican one-on-one about the incendiary comment. Perry further indicated that Cawthorn should identify the individuals he alleges engaged in that behavior. I think it is important, if you're going to say something like that, to name some names. Oh, please don't name names. Because all those names go with faces we know. But this is truly an amazing turn in the evolution of the Republican Party. They whipped up their base into believing crazy. That base then elected a bunch of crazy people who believe that crazy. And now those crazy people are accusing their fellow Republicans of engaging in wild drug-fueled sex parties. This whole group of pro-Trump toadies is just so weird and loathsome. Like Texas Senator Ted Cruz, for example, who, I'm gonna go out on a limb here, wasn't invited to the orgy. Well, it's just frustrating because we're always getting our dates mixed up. Cruz claimed the other day that a mysterious cabal is somehow controlling the Biden administration because he personally has not spoken to Biden during his presidency.
I actually get asked that almost every day. Somebody says, who's really running things? And let me tell you the scary thing. I have no idea. So Biden's been president, what, 15 months? In that entire time, I have not spoken with him once.
Well, I guess that means he's at the orgies that you're not at. But I do wonder why a person wouldn't want to speak to Ted Cruz. It truly is a mystery. It's one of those age-old questions. Why don't people like talking to Ted Cruz? Or why don't people like getting hit in the nuts with a football? This is the modern Republican Party, a collection of fringe weirdos who, by the way, will very likely control Congress next year. And they could very well end up nominating Donald Trump for president again. He keeps holding his unhinged rallies and keeps strongly hinting that he'll run again. And he remains, as of now, the most influential Republican in the country, which is terrifying for many reasons, among which is the fact that he tried to stage a coup, which a House committee and a federal judge have said was very likely a crime. He's hidden or possibly even destroyed evidence of that crime. And on top of all that, keeps going out of his way to praise a brutal autocrat currently waging a horrific war on an innocent neighboring country. And now Trump is complaining that the media keeps getting mad whenever he calls various dictators like Vladimir Putin smart.
You know, every time I say somebody's smart, they always go, oh, Trump said that President Xi of China is smart. Well, you know, he runs 1.5 billion people with an iron fist. Yeah, I think he's pretty smart. And they have a chain over there. You know, if you're a dummy, you get left here. It's like this. It's like a pyramid. The smartest one gets to the top. But they asked me, is Putin smart? Yes, Putin was smart. And I actually thought he was going to be negotiating. I said, that's a hell of a way to negotiate. Put 200,000 soldiers on the border. It looked like a great negotiation. That didn't work out too well for him.
I like wounded Trump. He's 75, but whines like a grounded teenager. It's not fair. Everyone's mad at me because I said Putin's smart. I said he's smart for dumping Sarah and taking the head cheerleader to prom. And sure, Sarah is perfect for Vlad. We all know that. But the head cheerleader is hotter. Well, though maybe one day Sarah will take off those glasses. Also, what do you mean it was a great negotiation that didn't work out too well for him? How can both of those things be true? I cannot believe this guy was commander or chief. Of course, as the world watches the conflict in Ukraine with horror, most decent, compassionate people are asking themselves what they can do to help, while responsible world leaders try to come up with solutions to end the crisis. Russian and Ukrainian negotiators have been meeting to try to hash out a ceasefire or peace deal. And then there's Trump, who apparently thought now would be a good time, in the middle of a monstrous war, to pitch some ideas to Vladimir Putin on how he could help Trump out and weaken Joe Biden.
As long as Putin now is not exactly a fan of our country, let him explain because Chris Wallace wouldn't let me ask the question. Why did the mayor of Moscow's wife give the Bidens, both of them, $3.5 million for them? That's a lot of money. She gave him $3.5 million. So now I would think Putin would know the answer to that. I think he should release it. I think we should know that answer. I think Putin now would be willing to probably give that answer. I'm sure he knows.
It's so shocking and gross, I need a second to process it, which brings us to a segment called Seth Needs a Smoke Break. I mean, damn, man. I don't smoke. This is disgusting. People do that? This has been Seth Needs a Smoke Break. You can always count on Trump to have both the worst and most insane take on any topic. I'd be terrified to hear what he thought of the Oscars. If anything, I think we could have used one or maybe two more slaps. And you know, it's never the slapper's fault, it's the slappee, because you have to be ready. That's why I was always practicing karate at my press conferences. You have to scare off potential slappers. Second, you're accusing someone else of taking money from Russia. You repeatedly tried to do business deals in Moscow, including while you were running for president, when you signed a letter of intent to build a Trump Tower in Moscow. CNN even obtained a copy of the official letter of intent from October 2015, and it had your signature on it. And we know it's your signature because it was in Sharpie and it looks like the results of a cardiogram from a patient in the middle of a heart attack. Look at that. It looks like a New Yorker cartoon of a Klan rally. If you looked at that signature without knowing who it was, you'd think the name was These two moments should give you a pretty good idea of where the Republican Party is right now. It's an unhinged movement of aspiring authoritarians whose leader is openly praising a brutal tyrant and asking him once again to intervene in U.S. politics, while a congressman accuses his colleagues of drug-fueled sex parties. I have no idea what those orgies look like, but I'm guessing.
It's like a pyramid.
This has been a closer look. God's Love We Deliver cooks and brings over 2 million meals a year to men, women, and children living with HIV/AIDS, cancer, and other serious illnesses, and they need your help now more than ever. If you're watching this online, you can hit the donate button. Stay safe, get vaccinated. We love you.